Welcome back to the channel. How are we all doing? First, I want to start off by saying I appreciate every single one of you that have subscribed recently. You guys are blowing my subscriber number up. We're close to that 500. I can't thank you all enough. In this last 30 days has been phenomenal. I know I'm pushing a lot of content. I have some free time on my hands. Going to kind of keep that trend going. I like having that 2 to 3, if not 4 videos a week put out. I find it fun. It gives me something to do at the end of the night once the kid goes to bed and things like that. But with that being said and out of the way, today I want to cover the barter tree in a deep dive. For new players and some people in that mid game that still might not understand quite how that barter tree works. So for this example, yes, I'm in the north. I'm in my northern faction hideout or camp, whatever you want to call it. But the main areas that I would want to be focusing on for this video and the people looking for this information are going to be the ones that are in the south zone still and that are in the swamps and roadside that are still progressing through that game. So whether you're at Adamant's HQ, Boathouse, Garages, and Photon 2. These are some of the main areas that are probably going to find this information helpful, but even if you've played and are up here in the north with me and everything like that, please put your helpful information down below. There is things that I miss. Have a decent amount of experience in the game, but there's still things that I miss. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying it's all and be all from what I say. Just giving information that helps that it took me a while to figure out on my own. So I wanted to throw it out there. So when you are in your base location, you have your merchant of gear, which is the gentleman on your mini map, or if you open up your big map, he has a pistol icon on your map. We can open that up. We have multiple different tabs here, and it's not explained the best. So we have assault rifles, submachine guns, machine guns, sniper rifles, shotgun rifles, pistols, and melee weapons. Those are all pretty self-explanatory. Under our weapons tab, under our other, we have backpacking containers, muzzle silencers, magazines, handguards, brackets, other attachments, devices, sights, skin paint, and other. These are pretty much all of your essential attachments for your weapons, from magazines to muzzle brakes to silencers to your foregrips. But they do have a couple other little pieces hidden in there that we don't always know about, or it took me a while to find a couple of the pieces. Then on the armor side, we have our combo, combat, and scientist suit. Today I'm doing a deep dive just on weapons, if you guys want more information on armor and things like that. With these being said, we're going to cover weapons first, then attachments, and then kind of bounce back and forth between armor and that other column there. That will make sense when we get there. So for weapons, we're going to keep it simple and just stick to the assault rifle tab. So the first one that you look at when you get to Boathouse level 1, I'm a bandit, so mine will be Boathouse 1. If you're a stalker, you'll be Adamant's HQ. And when you see these different levels from Boathouse to Photon, it'll be the same progression for you guys. It'll just be a different name. With that being said, our first one that you typically would buy, depending on which one you choose to get, would be, we're going to use the AKS-74U as an example. You have two options of getting it in the offers. Our first one is to pay 940 rubles for it, and we do have to be in the Boathouse base or Adamant's HQ, and it requires a level 1 of Boathouse in order to buy it. The option 2 here is, if you progress the quest line, you'll meet a gentleman named Leiden. You complete enough quests for him, you get a quest item that will then allow you to trade that in for this weapon of 0 cost. But if we hover over that AKS-74U, you'll notice a little blue dot triangle looking thing with an arrow pointing to our AKS-74. If we click on that, we now get to see our trade options here. And what this offer is, we only have one option for the offer, is we would have to turn in our AKS-74U, plus we would have to turn in green mold, as well as swampstone in order, plus 2,640 rubles to trade it in for AKS-74. Yes, you turn this in, you do not get to keep this. It will then be turned into this new weapon here. Now, if you're looking at how do I get the materials of these in order to actually make that trade happen, green mold, as with anything in the game, you can hover over it. It'll give you some examples. Green mold is from mutants and swamps, so any of the rat dens, piggy dens, boar dens, mutt dens, ghoul dens, any of those things will drop green mold when you complete them. There's a couple different ways you can boost the amount that you get. Some of them are the different champagnes. I'll have those up on screen now. The other option is if you have premium, you also get a 15% bonus for the or for items dropped, as well as XP and the 15% bonus towards your base leveling up or base XP. That's besides the point. Your swamp stone comes from killing people in the swamps, so NPCs. So any of the, like the soldier camps, I'll put a picture up of them of what their exact names are. I can't recall the name to save my life right now, but I'll put an example up and highlight those in both areas for you guys to be able to see what that is. So, and I'll show you some of the better spots to farm these as you're running through and going through. But next, if we scroll over, we get that little blue line still showing that we're going to continue down this line. Once we get to Photon 2, now we have we get to Photon 2, we level that location up to a level 2. We now have the option to trade for the AK-74M. This requires a little bit different. So with this option, we can turn in our AKS-74U, plus we can do pieces of copper wire, stinky root, and crapite. But we do have an option 2 in this one. This one, we wouldn't have to turn in our AKS-74, but it's going to cost you more in materials and rubles. So let's say you got to Photon 2 and you're using the M16 and you decided, hey, I don't like that. Well, now you have an option to switch to an AK platform. It's just going to cost you a little bit more in materials. But kind of that same thing, except for we have a new farming style introduced into the game to us at this point. And they're called caches. I'll get into caches and how to farm them here in just a little bit. But then if we look at our stinky root, now we have the same as what we were farming before, just a different material in a different zone. So stinky root comes from materials at roadside, coal complex, agro complex, black willows, and the scrapyard. So now you have a multitude of different areas, I'll put them up on the map, that you can go farm all of these dens. So same thing, it's going to be rat dens, boar dens, piggy dens, mutt dens, and ghoul dens. That will have a chance of dropping that stinky root. The other one is going to be the crapite, and these are kind of the same as the swamp stone, which then is dropped from people at roadside, coal complex, or agro complex, black willows, and the scrapyard. But it's just killing the NPC camps, the soldier camps. I'll put those up on screen and where those are all located within your area to farm those as well. And then as we continue down, but now here's where it gets a little bit different. So now you're in the bar, you level up to level 3, and now we get to split our options. And this is where you're starting to plan your next future moves as you get further into the game, as you progress further, make your way towards the north, you're enjoying the game more. Now we put a little bit more strategic planning into where we want to build from here. Because once you start getting into these ones, going back and refarming stuff, you can do it at any point. There's nothing wrong with that. But they get to be a lot more costly. They take a lot more time to start farming some of these materials. So we'll kind of deep dive those here. So let's say we're here and we're really enjoying that 545 platform. And we're like, hey, maybe we continue that 545 platform. But you've seen some information that AKM is a 762, does a little bit more damage, and you want to go that route instead. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to break off from this and go to our AKM route for that 762. I'm not saying they're better than 545. In this season at this moment, it is, but that's besides the point. So now if we look, we still have two options. Option 1 is turning in our AK-74M. And this is where we get even more stuff introduced into what we're looking to farm and actually use for our barter tree. So first option is going to be remains of radio transmitters. These are from caches in pit and forest. Caches, so I'll get a little bit more into caches because we did have some of that scrap from, or the copper wire from scrapyard for our last weapon. Caches are used when you get to bar level 1. You have to go and make a metal detector. Your first one that you can make is actually in Photon 2. My apologies. Photon 2, you can make a metal detector. You can make the mini pancake in the beginning, and it's going to take 13 stinky root and 8 crapite and $1,400. Worth it 100%. As soon as you get to Photon 2 or you get to garages, and as soon as you walk in that door, make that metal detector. You are going to bring that thing with you quite a bit in the beginning, just for farming purposes. Let's go back to our AKM. So now we have that. So we got to do that in caches. I'll put up a map up of all the lists or all the caches within the pit and the forest. Wow. So then you're going to take that mini pancake, you're going to go and you're going to farm the pit and forest for your metal transmitters. The next one is our sprig of Chernobyl chameleon. Either way, we all know I'm bad with words. That's just how it is. These are from mutants, so same as everything else before that we've killed from mutant, it's just taking out all the different animal dens or mutant dens. But now we have alpha data fragments. So now you're getting introduced to signal farming, which you need to do in order to lock your Barrier down the road, but that's a different video. So these are, you're going to take two different tools. So I'll go over them in just a minute. But as you're out farming your other pieces, you're going to be signal farming in order to pull your alpha dagma fragments. These will now be introduced entirely for the rest of the game of farming. Same with also cache hunting for different items within caches. Those are continuously in the game going forward. The other item is going to be our pickle. These are from people in the pit and forest and factories. So same as killing all of the NPC camps, zombie camps, all of those, they will drop your pickle. That's a wild sentence. Either way. On top of that, now we jump up to a lot more expensive in the cost of rubles. So if we look, it is 58,000 rubles, where to get our AK-74, it was 6,200 or 6,280. So that is a big jump in cost. But from Photon 2 to Bar Level 3, you should have completed some side quests, you should completed main quests, you've picked up a lot of stuff to sell. You should be doing all right, but if you're not, it's one thing to keep in mind as you start grinding, is everything down this line, no matter what route you chose to go, is going to be roughly around that $50,000 mark in rubles. But if we go to offer 2, we can say, hey, I never went that route. I was actually in the 5.56 platform in the M16A3, and I really don't want to go into the Sour or the Warren Sig or the LMGs or M4. I want the AKM. So we hit offer 2. Now everything just went up. It's now $68,000, but it's going to require more of that materials that you have to grind out in order to get. And it continues down this way. Now we're into bar level 7. We're going to go for the AKM Tashina. So it's still, this one's going to require us to turn in our AKM for sure. We don't have any other option. We have to turn that in. But now we get into some really big numbers when it comes to farming materials. So now you need remains of batteries, which is from caches. So you're taking your metal detector and you're going to the Dead City, the Graveyard, Path of Fools, or Poloski in order to find these caches. The next option is the Northern Moss, which is from Mutants in Dead City, Graveyard, Path of Fools, and Poloski. So these are same thing as before, killing all of your mutt dens, things like that. Beta Dagman fragments is when you close rifts and randomly when you detect signals in the Dead City. So do signal farms for this. It's a lot easier to do your signal farming versus closing rifts unless you're doing protocharges. Protocharges will drop these as well, but they're not quite as frequent out that way. So doing your signals will give you better results in my opinion. Some people might have other opinions. In my opinion, doing signal farms will give you better results. And then drop stone, and this is from people. So your soldier camps, your zombie camps in those 4 locations as well. I will have a map up of each type on the screen of where to farm those. I'll pause the video so it lights it up for you for a little bit so you can actually look at it and you don't have to go through and pausing your video as much. Now you get into really expensive. This is all late game stuff. I have some videos on serums and stuff like that and what to do when you get to the north. I would check that video out for a little bit of a deeper dive into these materials and things like that. I want to keep this a little bit simpler and not so convoluted with your pre-masterwork and masterwork weapons. Now, let's say you got the AK. So we're going to step back a ways and now we're going to work on our attachment list. So let's say you got an AKS-74U and you really want to put some sort of attachments on it, right? So if you right click on the weapon in the barter tree, we can look at every attachment possible that we could physically put on this gun if we wanted to, right? Does that help us? Not overly, because a lot of them we can't actually access. So if we go to our category, and let's say we're going to start with a sight. It's our first sight. Most people are going to go that way. And we are in boathouse level 4 still. or we haven't left there yet, but we are there. We have a couple different options for sites here. What we can do is we can hit this view info, and right here under suitable for, it shows us each weapon that this can physically go on. So we are looking for a green. Our weapon is green. So we can go and say, okay, we're going to limit to green AK-74M. We know it can go on that. So then we can go, and it's going to be 420 rubles, same as every other trade. You go to buy it, then you can just go and slap that thing on. Now you can do this with any attachment. So if we go to muzzle brakes, we have to be in Photon 2, for example, but let's say, hey, I really want the flash hinder. If we hit view info here, we can look, and same thing, it is for our AK-74M. But let's say we're like, hey, we like the stats of this one, right? Minus 3.25% spread, minus 2.4% horizontal recoil. If we hit view info and we look through it, and nope, ours isn't on there. So before you go and start crafting and buying random attachments, make sure they work for the guns that you are wanting to use. Yes, you can come back and make them at any point. You might have to make a trip backwards down to Boathouse 1 or Boathouse or Photon or Bar, but it is there as an option for you to go back and make it, just so that way you're not wasting materials in the beginning. Under other attachments, we do have lasers, things like that. These will typically go on just about any weapon. Not a lot of your green weapons. Most of your blues, purples, and reds will have room for your lasers. That's the same as your foregrips and things like that. There's a lot more options, but a lot of weapons don't have that option or that Picatinny rail on the bottom within those first two base areas in order to support your foregrips. And it's the same thing as before. You work your way down this line. They just keep getting more and more expensive as you go. Under devices, we do have our homemade NVG, which you start with. Typically, you'll start with this. You can do night vision goggles, which are a substantial improvement from homemade NVG. I recommend doing this when you get that option to in Photon 2 or garages. You do have to be level 1 in there, so as soon as you walk in, I would say do your night vision goggles, as well as the mini pancake. This mini pancake is going to come with you everywhere. And then when you get to level 4 in Photon 2, same thing, do your pancake, upgrade it to the better one. You do get better results out of using it. It finds caches a lot easier. When you get to the bar, I believe you get this item from a quest earlier before the bar, or right as you're about to get to the bar. I'm not 100% sure. Make sure you make your candlestick. The candle short range detector is for signal farming. It pairs with our SAC-1 wide range scanner. You need to make sure you have both of these in order to go signal farming. I have a video, I'll link it up in the top right now, on signal farming. Make sure you have 2 to 3 wide range detectors with you. It'll just allow you to be out farming a lot more often. So we're going to skip the backpack and containers part for a second. We're going to jump to our armor, and we're going to stick to the combat section of this for now. So each one of these has some different benefits to them. So if we hover over this one, let's say you're in Boathouse level 3. Hey, I'm going to get a new armor. Typically you'll get one before this, but just for this example, we're going this route. So we look at this and it goes, okay, we have +2 carry weight. We have 35 bullet resistance, 49 laceration, 35 explosive. If we look at the bandit one, it is +5 carry weight, 26 bullet, 112 laceration, and 25 explosive. Plus, we have bleeding protection in the bottom there. So we can kind of bounce them back and forth and say, hey, you know what? I like this one better because it has +5 carry weight and 112 laceration protection, plus 45% bleed protection over this suit here. The other thing we have to look at when we're looking at any type of armor, whether it's combat, science, suit, or combo, is what backpacks are compatible with and what containers are compatible with it. So if it says any type of backpack container you find at all can fit into this armor. As we work our way down, which is the exact same as all the weapons, all the attachments, you turn in the last item, turn in your trade items with it, or those barter items as I refer to them as, to turn in with it. And now you just kind of bounce back and forth, or you can't bounce back and forth, but you pick what line you want to follow and see where you want to go with it. Some of them have that initial offer 1 where you can just buy it outright if you decide that, hey, I did the current last time, not super happy with the stats on it. Let's see that plus 3% movement, plus 2 carry. I don't like the bullet resistance, explosive, and laceration. And I'm not liking the scout either. So I'm going to switch to this. Here you can. You can do offer 1, buy it outright. So you can bounce back and forth every once in a while, but not often. But if we get into... So if we look at, just for an example, Jaeger, it is further down the quest line. It is a veteran, so it's right before pre-masterwork. It's not something to worry about as you're starting out. But we will have to look at our compatible backpacks are only light backpacks. Our compatible containers are except bulky ones. So everything except bulky ones. That is an important thing to make sure you are watching for when you are looking at armor versus what you are wanting to. With that being said, if we go to backpacks and containers, this is where it gets a little convoluted in where you want to pick to go. So you start off with the transformer bag. It does give you that carry weight of 15. It does have 1 artifact slot in it, and it is classified as a light backpack. If we go into the next one, we have Aaron Jr., which is 27 carry weight. You have an artifacts of 2 slot, and it is a common backpack. Where if we look at the sports bag, it is a 20 carry weight, 2 artifact slot with a light backpack status. If we look at this top one, it is a compact container, does not give us any carry weight bonus, and it is a capacity of 1 artifact, but it does have 50% inner protection. So cases will have inner protection, helping you not having to balance your artifacts so much in some of the negative stats it'll give you, versus backpacks have no inner protection, but give you carry weight. So there's a little bit of a give and take there. So if you can continue down this line, same thing as before, you're going to have to turn in your last item, turn in your barter items with rubles in order to complete that trade. But you can keep going down the line until the Tri-Zip or the Hellboy backpack at bar level 1 is as far as these go. The Tri-Zip will give you a 4-slot artifact capacity plus 40 carrying capacity, where the Hellboy is kind of the best of both worlds a little bit at this point, where you get 2 artifacts, you get 28 increased carrying, as well as 50% inner protection. But if we look up at our bar level 1 container, we have a bulky container that is an inner protection of 50, 100% effectiveness with a 3 capacity slot for our artifacts. But that branches off into the later game where we get into a lot of our different containers for those artifact builds for PvP and PvE. That covers a lot of it. But if we go and look at this season, we have some different suits, right? So our first suit that we get in this season, if we look at this is one of the first ones you get in that season, is the exoskeleton. Is it Aborigine exoskeleton? If we look at our compatible backpacks and containers, we can have any backpack we want with no issue. Compatible containers is compact and standard. So if you're just starting out and you're playing, leveling up your season passes you're running through, odds are you will unlock this suit and you're going to slap that on right away because it's better than any other suit you have at this moment. It's the exact same thing I did when I first got this suit. But I also didn't realize that I was always running backpacks, but then I started wanting to run containers, and there were some that I couldn't because I was limited to compact and standard. So that is a big thing to watch for. Now let's say you are still running through, you're still leveling up, and you make it to our scientist suit here. Scientist suits can use just about any backpack in any container with no issues. It's combat that typically run into those ones that we're not allowed to use. All right, I think that covers most of it. If there's anything that I missed, please let me know. Like I said, I'm not perfect. There's still information that I have gaps in when creating these videos that I'm still learning, things that I wish I knew when I first started playing Stalcraft. There's a lot more to it than just what meets the eye sometimes. But if you found this video helpful, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I don't ask it a lot. We are getting close to that 500, and I really appreciate your guys' support. We are flying through these numbers, and I'm just in awe, in all honesty. You guys are amazing. With that being said, if I missed something, please throw it down in the comments. But until next time, we'll see you guys later. Peace.